His Excellency Lord Mayor John Dennis of West Lafayette.
He always does that. I never get to pay him back as he sits down before I get up here. I'll be somewhat brief because there's a few personal stories that I'd like to share with the audience. First off, I was born outside of the country, and at age 14, I was naturalized into the United States. And I think the reason for that was my father was in the military, and I was born on a military base in Japan. But back in those days, the way that you got back into the country is you sat on your mom's lap, and they took a picture of you with your mom, and basically that got you through the process. I didn't have any problems. I mean, obviously it didn't impact me at all. Years later, I met and married somebody that wasn't from this country as well, my wife. She's from Ireland. And the one thing about Mary is when I proposed to her, she said, "Sure, I'll marry you, you big chucklehead, but I'm not going to live in America." So I moved to Ireland. And then I had the experience, the true experience, of trying to find work in a country where you're not a citizen. And back in the early 80s, the economy in Ireland was horrible. They had double-digit unemployment, they had inflation, jobs were virtually impossible to get even for the folks that were Irish. And I had a technical degree. I was an industrial hygienist by education. And so I'd go to factories, I'd go to shops, I'd try to get work. They would look at my resume and say, "Yep, you are definitely qualified, but we have to go through every Irish applicant. We have to go through every Irish citizen. And if they're not qualified, if they're not remotely qualified, then we'll give you an opportunity for employment." Obviously, that is not only an uphill battle, but it's an ice hill battle. It's virtually impossible to get a qualified job there. So what did I do? I went to the underground. I painted. I think they wanted me to paint because I'm tall. I can get the high parts of the wall. I carried sacks of flour for bakeries. And to some of you that know me, you'll be shocked at this, I did electrical work. It's amazing that I'm still here after doing that. And Tony, be quiet. But I did anything I could do to try and make money for my very young family. Our daughter was born over there, and so I had a very young family. You know, thank God that Mary had a good job. But we tried to get certified and viable employment for 2 years. But because I was an immigrant, and technically an illegal immigrant in Ireland, I could not get work. So what happened? We ended up coming back to the United States, came back to my hometown in West Lafayette, and the rest you all are well aware of. But the difficulty was that I brought my family with me. And again, not difficulty for me personally, but we encountered more challenges. You know, Mary was not a citizen. Our daughter had dual citizenship. Because of the marriage, Mary was able to get a green card. But then in 1999, Mary started the process of becoming a citizen. Again, because of the green card, she had no challenges getting work. She said, "I had a great career at Purdue." But she decided to become a citizen. And she went through a process that, for us, you would think would have been relatively simple. But it was fairly challenging. And most importantly, it wasn't just challenging to get through the bureaucratic hoops to get to the end result of citizenship. It was very expensive. And I think that's one point that we're not making. A lot of folks that want to go through this process legitimately, it requires a lot of money. You know, you start off paying out a couple $100, and through each phase of the process, you have to pay more. Now understand, this is at the end of the last century in the 1990s. I don't know if it's changed significantly since then. It's probably more expensive now. But we had those challenges. And again, for us, you know, I was a police officer. Mary was working over at the Alumni Association, and we had a young family. It was pretty difficult to do. But the eventuality is that Mary obtained her citizenship and was able to declare America as her country, and probably so. But the backstory to that is, and I think it was very well noted in your report, Mary's one of 9 children. She's the oldest daughter of 9 children. The economy in Ireland is spiky. You know, they were the Celtic tiger for a while, and now I think they're the Celtic kitten because they're having a lot of problems over there. And her family would like to come over here and contribute to the United States. Some of her sisters have applied for citizenship through the visa process to become a member of the United States. And they pay money, and then they get put on a waiting list. One of my sister-in-laws has been on that waiting list for 10 years. And she has not even made it to the next status. And the next status requires, and she's in constant, there's a website on the Department of Naturalization you can go and look at and you can see what your status is. And Catherine's still way down at the bottom of the tank. And there's no explanation as to why that's so. My brother-in-laws they're very technically skilled folks. They're tilers, they're electricians. One of them's an engineer, a draftsman. They could definitely contribute, but again, the process of getting into this country legitimately is challenging and getting more so. It becomes an issue of challenging the bureaucracy. It becomes an issue that's emotional based upon your family ties, and it becomes an issue that like oftentimes when we look at a massive bureaucratic system, we in America sit there and shake our heads and say, why is it so? You know, there's a secondary issue as well, the availability of jobs. In this country, even in this community, we've got hundreds of jobs available that we cannot fill. You know, again, that's something for a completely different meeting to discuss why we have available positions that we can't fill. That's a sociological issue, and probably something else would be worthy of discussion at this forum. But if we have employees, if we have folks that are willing, ready, able, and qualified to work, why do we make it so difficult to get those folks brought forward? What is the challenge? What are we trying to do? What is our objective? What is our goal? You know, since 2011, is it trying to make sure that they're going to be good citizens that are going to contribute to a positive quality of life in our country? Are we trying to prevent the potential destruction of something within our country? Was the immigration system established to keep people out or to keep people in? Again, those are questions that I don't know. But what I can talk about is my personal perspective on it. And I understand that we need to have a watchman at the gate. I understand that, I respect that, and actually in my prior career I enforced that. But I also understand that there's a possibility of essential competitiveness that we might be missing out on. It was so well addressed in this report. If we lose our market, if we lose our employee base, if we lose our ability to staff some of those essential jobs in this country, what's the outcome going to be? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. So I think it's well stated that there is something, it's a system that's sort of rolling along. It's a system that I think that hasn't been given the appropriate amount of attention lately. I think we've been given more attention to the fact of how do we keep the evil out instead of how do we bring the goodness in. So again, thank you so much for all the hard work that you've done. I think your report's outstanding and it reads very well. And I can't wait to hear where the forum's going to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, I'm compelled to add a slight personal perspective on this as well.